Welcome to Biggest Spoilars, the destination for exclusive spoilers, latest updates.
General Hospital recap for Wednesday, October 29th, reveals that Drew Kane pulled off his man's palm while Veronica Ronnie Bard faces counter-reaction. Jacinda Bracken also made a decision, so then's how effects played out on Wednesday's drama-filled occasion. At GH, Britt Westbourne rode with Elizabeth Baldwin before Nathan West popped up. Nathan refocused out that Britt's presence at Rocco Falconeri's regale the other night had been a problem. After Nathan pushed Britt to admire Lulu Spencer's wishes, Britt wondered if she was just supposed to turn Rocco down. Nathan made it clear that he indeed anticipated Britt to do that and paraded down. At Lulu's house, she gave Dante Falconeri the news about Rocco going behind their reverse to have regale with Britt, Nathan, and Liesl Albrecht. Lulu stressed the significance of letting Rocco come to them with this word, but Dante principally set a trap for Rocco when he appeared with Charlotte Cassadine. Dante quizzed Rocco about where he was that night, so Charlotte prevaricated about Rocco helping Cody Bell with commodity. When Dante suggested he should call Cody so that Rocco could be compensated, Rocco went on with Charlotte's taradiddle and acted like it was fine since he enjoyed pitching in. After Charlotte and Rocco stepped outdoors, Lulu scolded Dante over his approach, but he was scarified over the peril since Britt had ties to Cesar Faison's design. On the veranda, Charlotte suggested Rocco demanded to shift his strategy and come clean since it was egregious his parents knew about the regale. Charlotte felt that Rocco's concession would distract Dante and Lulu from what they really wanted to keep under wraps, which was presumably the Professor Henry Hank Dalton takedown plot they were now involved in. Following Curtis Ashford's tense commerce with Isaiah Gannon, he ran into Laura Collins at GH and conceded that he could use a friend. Curtis gave Laura updates on his divorce decision along with Jordan Ashford's reservations about Portia Robinson's gestation. Since Curtis wanted to do everything in his power to move Portia to go through with having the baby, Laura wondered if that meant he was willing to stick with their marriage. After Laura suggested about that not being fair to the child, Curtis got honest about wanting this baby and a Jordan reunion. Once Isaiah wrapped effects up at work, he returned to the cabin and was surprised to find that Portia was gone. Meanwhile, Portia met with Ava Jerome at the Metro Court Bar, where she sought help for Trina Robinson's sake and pushed for discretion. After Portia admitted she was getting a divorce from Curtis, she explained why effects were complicated. Portia revealed to Ava about being pregnant and not knowing who the father was since she'd also been seeing Isaiah. Although Portia's plan was to stay until the first trimester had passed and inform the biopater. After a maternity test, she bothered Jordan was formerly busy dishing to Curtis. Portia bothered about the Trina fallout, but Ava was further than willing to support both Trina and Portia through the extremity. Once Portia was in her office, Curtis ambuscaded her and demanded to know if she was pregnant. At Crimson, Nina Reeves gave Jacinda a check, so Jacinda marveled over all the bottoms. Drew arrived and asked if Nina was paying Jacinda to medicine someone differently, but Nina claimed this was about saving Willow Tate. Jacinda dropped the check in her bag and left moments laterally. Nina explained to Drew that thanks to her, Jacinda was no longer Michael Corinthos' justification. Drew also had a plan to help Willow since he was buying the Quartermaine manse, which would shoot Michael off the rails and prove what he was able of. Next, Jacinda met up with Michael in the Metro Court dining area. After Jacinda showed Michael the check and explained what just happened with Nina, he was willing to double Nina's offer. Still, Michael also tasted that Jacinda wanted trust, which plutocrat couldn't buy. Since Michael treated Jacinda like a person rather than someone who could give a service, she stood by their alliance. Nina wound up catching a regard of Michael and Jacinda as they tinkled their spectacles in a toast, so she looked unsettled. At the Quartermaine manse, Ronnie was determined to vend the house, so Tracy Quartermaine pushed her to vend it to Michael. Rather, Ronnie revealed that she'd formally accepted an offer from another buyer. Once Drew came strutting in, he revealed to Tracy, Olivia Quartermaine and Ned Quartermaine that his purchase of the Quartermaine manse was a done deal. Ronnie looked shamefaced as Tracy blustered at her for abandoning the responsibility that Monica Quartermaine gave her. Tracy snapped over Ronnie's opprobrious jest. Since she'd lowered Monica with her conduct. General Hospital spoilers say Ronnie's manse trade will lead to further conflict, so stay tuned. The air in Port Charles was thick with a deceptive calm, the kind that precedes a seismic shift in the very foundations of its world. In a sun-dappled chapel, a congregation was gathering, their faces a mosaic of hope, faith, and the lingering shadows of recent traumas. It was a day meant for new beginnings, for the sacred promise of a baptism. Yet, hovering just beyond the hallowed walls, a storm of revelation was brewing, one poised to shatter the fragile peace and answer a question that had haunted the community for weeks: who shot Drew Kane? The ceremony was for the infant Liam, a beacon of innocence in a city often starved of it. Gathered around the font were his parents, Michael Corinthos and Willow Corinthos, their hands clasped tightly. They represented the encouraging words of the day, their love a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Standing as godparents were Jocelyn Jacks and Dex Heller, their own bond forged in the fires of recent chaos. The gentle murmur of prayers, the soft scent of incense, and the priest's soothing voice created a sanctuary of tranquility. It was a scene of profound normalcy, a cherished ritual in the endless drama of their lives. "Do you renounce Satan and all his works?" the priest asked, his voice echoing softly in the chapel. "I do," Michael and Willow responded in unison, their voices firm, their eyes fixed on their son. For a moment, all the outside threats, the corporate takeovers, the personal vendettas, the lingering fear, melted away. This was their victory. A family, whole and safe, dedicating their child to a future brighter than their past. Jocelyn squeezed Dex's hand, a silent communication of shared relief and burgeoning love. They had survived. They were here. This was a day to reclaim joy. Meanwhile, in the sterile, tense environment of the PCPD interrogation room, that joy was a distant, foreign concept. Here, the angry threats were not a future possibility but a present, palpable force. Commissioner Anna Devane stood opposite a man whose face was a mask of cold, calculated fury, John Jacks. Jacks's typically polished demeanor was gone, replaced by the ragged edges of a man pushed to his absolute limit. His love for his daughter, Jocelyn, had curdled into a desperate, vengeful obsession. For weeks, he had been consumed by one goal: protecting Jocelyn from the man he saw as a corrupting, dangerous influence, Dex Heller. In his mind, Dex was a pawn of Michael Corinthos and, by extension, the toxic Corinthos empire that had ensnared his daughter. He believed with every fiber of his being that removing Dex was the only way to save Joss. "We have you, John," Anna said, her voice low and steady, though fatigue lined her face. The investigation had taken its toll on her, too. The financial trail is circumstantial, but it's there. Paying off a low-level enigma like pikeman leaves a trace, however faint. But we both know this isn't about money. This is about Jocelyn. Jax's lip curled into a sneer. "You have nothing." A few questionable transfers that could be explained a dozen ways. "You're grasping at straws because the great Anna Devane can't solve the case that's rocking her city." "This isn't about my ego," Anna countered, leaning forward on the table. "It's about a man being gunned down in cold blood. It's about the rule of law. And it's about a father who crossed a line from which there is no return." Jax laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "The rule of law? In Port Charles?" "Spare me the lecture, Anna. The law in this town is a flexible concept, bent to the will of people like Sonny Corinthos and his ilk every single day. I did what any real father would do. I protected my child from a predator." "Dex Heller is not a predator, Jax. He's a young man trying to build a life. He's a mercenary who embedded himself in my daughter's life under false pretenses." Jax slammed his fist on the table, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the small room. "He was working for Michael to spy on Sonny. He lied to her, used her, and dragged her into a world of violence. She was almost killed because of her association with him. What was I supposed to do? Wait for the next catastrophe? Wait for him to get her killed?" His words were a torrent of paternal rage, twisted by grief and a profound sense of powerlessness. In his eyes, he was the hero of this story, the only one willing to do what was necessary. Back in the chapel, the priest was anointing Liam with holy oil, tracing the cross on his forehead. I claim you for Christ our Savior by the sign of his cross. Willow's eyes welled with tears of joy. Michael wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. He leaned in and whispered, "We made it, Willow. After everything, we're here. Our family is safe." These were the encouraging words, the verbal embodiment of the day's intended purpose. They were a vow, not just to God, but to each other. They had faced illness, betrayal, and the machinations of their enemies, and they had emerged stronger. This baptism was their line in the sand, a declaration that the darkness of their past would not define their son's future. "We will protect him," Willow whispered back, her voice thick with emotion. "We will give him a life filled with love, not fear." Jocelyn, watching them, felt a surge of optimism. She looked at Dex, seeing the quiet strength in his posture, the way his gaze was fixed on the ceremony with a reverence that spoke of his own desire for redemption and a normal life. She believed in him. She believed in their future. The encouragement in the room was a tangible force, a collective will to believe in better days. At the PCPD, that force was non-existent. The atmosphere was one of pure menace. "You think you're the first person to justify a crime with 'I did it for my family'?" Anna asked, her tone shifting from weary to sharp. "It's the oldest, saddest refrain in this business, Jax. And it never, ever holds up. You didn't protect Jocelyn. You betrayed her. You became the very thing you claimed to be fighting, a criminal who uses violence to solve his problems." Jax's eyes narrowed, the cool facade cracking completely to reveal the white-hot anger beneath. "Don't you dare psychoanalyze me, Anna. You, who has made a career of questionable alliances and morally gray decisions. Where was your famed integrity when your own daughter was in danger? We all make choices to protect our own. There's a chasm of difference between making a choice and plotting a murder, Jax," Anna shot back. "Drew Kane could have died. He was an innocent man caught in the crossfire of your vendetta. You hired pikemen to kill Dex Heller, and you missed. You failed. And in your failure, you almost killed another man. A man with a family, a man who has served his country. Does that sound like the act of a hero to you?" The mention of Drew was the chink in Jax's armor. A flicker of something, not remorse, but perhaps frustration, crossed his face. Drew had not been part of the plan. Drew was a complication, a mistake. "It was a miscalculation," Jax said, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "The target was Heller. He's the poison in my daughter's life. And I will not rest until that poison is eradicated. This isn't over, Anna. You can hold me here for 24 hours, but you can't watch him forever. There will be another opportunity. And next time I won't miss." The threat hung in the air, cold and absolute. It was no longer the rant of a grieving father, it was the promise of a determined assassin. The angry threats had been made, and they were as real as the gun that had fired the bullet. As the baptismal ceremony reached its climax, with Liam being welcomed into the faith, the two worlds were on a collision course. The moment of peace was about to be violently interrupted. The chapel door swung open, letting in a shaft of harsh afternoon light. Dante Falconeri stood there, his posture all business. He caught Anna's eye. She had slipped in to witness the sacred moment, a brief respite from the ugliness at the precinct. The look on his face told her everything. It was time. Anna's heart sank. She had hoped to preserve this one moment of sanctity for the families she cared about. She gave a nearly imperceptible nod to Dante, then moved quietly through the pews toward Jocelyn. Jocelyn, beaming with the happiness of the day, turned and saw Anna's grim expression. Her smile faltered. "Anna? What is it? What's wrong?" Around them, the congregation began to sense the shift. Michael and Willow turned from the font, their celebratory expressions morphing into ones of confusion and concern. Dex instinctively stepped closer to Jocelyn, his body shifting into a protective stance. "Jocelyn, I need you to come with me," Anna said softly, her voice meant only for their small group, though it carried in the sudden quiet of the chapel. "Why? What's happened? Is it my mom? Is it Dad?" Jocelyn's voice trembled. Anna took a deep breath. There was no gentle way to say it. The baptism begins was over, the reckoning was here. It's about the shooting. The attack on Drew and Dex. We've made an arrest. A collective, sharp intake of breath came from those close enough to hear. The air, once filled with prayer, was now electric with dreadful anticipation. Who? Dex asked, his voice hard. Who was it? Anna's gaze was locked on Jocelyn, her eyes filled with a profound and sorrowful pity. She knew the devastation her next words would cause. She knew that the encouraging words of the day, the promises of a safe future, were about to be obliterated. Jocelyn, we have your father in custody. The evidence points incontrovertibly to him. John Jacks is the one who hired pikemen to kill Dex. The silence that followed was more deafening than any scream. It was a vacuum, sucking all the joy, all the hope, all the sanctity out of the room. Jocelyn's face went ashen. Her knees buckled, and she would have collapsed if Dex hadn't been there to catch her. No, she whispered, the word a broken plea. No, that's not possible. You're wrong. My father, he wouldn't. He couldn't. The encouraging world she had built in her mind, the future she had envisioned with Dex, safeguarded by her family's love, shattered into a million pieces. The man who had taught her to ride a bike, who had comforted her after her first heartbreak, the man she had trusted implicitly, was a would-be murderer. The target had been the man she loved. He confessed to the motive, Jocelyn, Anna continued, her voice gentle but unrelenting. The truth, however brutal, had to be served. He believed Dex was a danger to you. He said he was protecting you. Protecting me? Jocelyn's whisper escalated into a cry of pure anguish. By having the man I love murdered? By almost killing Drew? That's not protection. That's madness. The scene devolved into chaos. Michael was immediately at Jocelyn's side, his own joy forgotten, his mind racing with the implications. Willow held a now fussing Liam closer, the holy water on his brow seeming less a blessing and more a pathetic defense against the horrors of his family's legacy. The other guests, Carly, Laura Collins, others, looked on in stunned, horrified silence. The encouraging words of the baptism were now drowned out by the echoes of Jax's angry threats from the interrogation room. I will not rest. There will be another opportunity. Next time I won't miss. His vow, made in the sterile confines of the PCPD, now contaminated the holy space, poisoning every memory of this day. Jocelyn's grief quickly morphed into a torrent of rage and betrayal. She pulled away from Dex, her body trembling with adrenaline. I have to see him, she declared, her voice shaking with fury. I have to look him in the eye and hear him say it. Jocelyn, I don't think that's a good idea, Carly said, stepping forward, her maternal instincts kicking in. I don't care what you think. Jocelyn snapped, her pain making her lash out. This is my life. He tried to destroy my life. I need to see him. Anna nodded reluctantly. You can see him. But it will be under controlled circumstances at the PCPD. The journey from the chapel to the police station was a blur. The beautiful day outside now seemed like a cruel joke. The baptismal gown was replaced by the stark reality of an interrogation room mirror. And so, Jocelyn Jacks found herself standing in the observation room, staring through the one-way glass at her father. Jack sat at the table, his head in his hands. He looked defeated, aged, a shell of the powerful, charismatic man she knew. Dex stood beside her, a steadying presence, but even his strength couldn't pierce the cold dread that had enveloped her. I need to go in alone, Jocelyn said, her voice eerily calm. Joss, no, Dex pleaded. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. She entered the room. Jax looked up, and for a fleeting second, hope flashed in his eyes. Hope that she was there as his daughter, his ally, his little girl. That hope died the moment he saw her face. Jocelyn, baby, he began, standing up. Don't, she cut him off, her voice like ice. Don't you dare call me that. Is it true? Jocelyn, everything I did for you. You have to believe that. That boy, he's no good for you. He's going to get you killed. Answer the question, she screamed, the dam of her control breaking. Did you hire someone to murder Dex? Jax was silent for a long moment, his gaze dropping to the floor. Then, he met her eyes again, and the confirmation was there, as clear as if he'd shouted it. I was trying to save you. The admission, even couched in justification, was a physical blow. Jocelyn staggered back, her hand flying to her mouth as if to stifle a sob, or perhaps vomit. Save me, she repeated, her voice a raw, broken thing. You tried to commit murder. You shot an innocent man. You have destroyed our family. You have destroyed me. Tears streamed down her face, but they were tears of fury. I will never forgive you for this. Do you hear me? Never. Jocelyn, please, Jax begged, his own composure crumbling. You're my daughter. I love you more than anything in this world. You have a terrible way of showing it, she spat. Your love is a poison. It's a bullet. I want you to look at me, Dad. Look at what you've done. You didn't protect me from a threat. You became the threat. And I will testify against you if I have to. I will make sure you never see the outside of a prison cell again. Her words were the final, devastating blow. They were not the encouraging words of a daughter's love, but the condemning verdict of his victim. She turned and walked out, leaving him alone in the room with the ruins of his life and the chilling echo of his own angry threats, which had now boomeranged back to annihilate him. The baptism had begun with a blessing of water and the Holy Spirit. It ended with the stain of blood and betrayal. The identity of the shooter was revealed, not as a shadowy monster from the underworld, but as a father from within their own ranks. The encouraging words of a new beginning had been silenced, replaced by the angry threats that would now fuel a bitter, heartbreaking war within a family, proving once again that in Port Charles, even the most sacred of days could be damned.